everybody. Welcome to an all-new episode of Dan's Stream of Thought. We're gonna be semi-brief today because I'm not feeling super well, but we're feeling good enough to be able to do our show, right? Because it ties into exactly what we're talking about today. So not only do most streamers often feel like they tend to be insignificant to a platform or to an audience or whatever it might be, often putting themselves further down than they need to be, which is not down at all. There's a lot of, we've talked about this before. We've talked about this in our book. We've talked about this in so many different avenues where it's so easy to just burn yourself out. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I'm not feeling very well because I've burnt myself out at least a tiny bit. Because normally I stream about 6 days a week. And I'm sure most of you, if you're listening to this, you probably stream anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week. But most of you that stream like 4 days, 3 days, you probably have day jobs too. So in reality, you're basically working, or at least doing something strenuous or stressful or whatever it might be, probably 7 days a week for most of you. For me, it's definitely 7 days a week because on that seventh day, I'm usually usually I'm doing something, whether that's answering emails, whether that is checking in with people that I'm going to be working with in the future, whether that's a lot of different things. Because legitimately, there's just a lot. There's just absolutely a lot that goes into what's going on. And you have to understand some things. Speaking of which, I have a depot on Saturday. No weekend for you. You have a depot on Saturday?
Yeah.
What the heck?
I think it was the only time you could do it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly that right there. So she said that it's the only day that this person who is getting depoted, is that what they call it? Deposed. A deposition is where they actually like take statements from a person that is, it's not necessarily testifying, right?
It is testifying.
So you're so like when you testify in front of like Congress and stuff like that, is that technically a deposition?
I would say it's kind of different, but you're on the record.
Like when people like when you bring in like Seth Rogen to talk about like the entertainment industry,
sure.
to the Senate. Did they talk to the Senate?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't know that I would call that a deposition. I would say that is
because there's no case.
That's just testimony. Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
I gotcha.
Legislative, not judicial.
I gotcha. Okay, so it's more testimony, which makes sense. But so this is more on the lines of, and this is relevant because if anybody does get in trouble, I'm not saying any of you are going to get in trouble, but if anybody does get in trouble in this space, there's probably a lot of people that are going to have to go be deposed.
Yeah, that should be fun. I would love to do a deposition.
Just listen to streamers depose themselves or get deposed or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting because like I don't know what sort of lawsuits are going to come out in the next 10 years. I'm sure some lawsuits have already happened, but I'm sure that most of those, especially because of the types of contracts we've been seeing, there's going to be something that goes down. It's been a little bit of a wild west recently, more so in my opinion than it has been before. Weirdly, I don't know why, because I feel like people are becoming more savvy, but I also feel like there's a lot of newer people in this space as well. There's also a lot of people being removed that are veterans and stuff like that, and retiring, and we're getting to that point where 6 years on a platform or even 10 years making content is just, that's enough. And I totally understand that. Did I pick a bad time to get started? No. We're gonna get to that. No. I don't think you picked a bad time to get started. I just think that because because of how many people that are coming in that are new and how many veterans that are retiring or going away or whatever it might be, there are a lot of companies. Well, I should say that even if there weren't a lot of people going away, there are a lot of companies finally figuring out, because it takes like 10 years for a lot of people in the industry to be able to do stuff like that. And there's people finally figuring out that, hey, we can make a bunch of money if we start doing stuff on places like Twitch and YouTube. Obviously, there's a lot of companies that have figured that out a long time ago, but there's a lot of companies figuring that out now as well. I mean, think about it. HBO Max is advertising a bunch on Twitch, and especially with Twitch itself and stuff like that. But they're their own streaming platform. So for them to actually take the leap and to talk about a streaming platform on a different streaming platform, even though they're very different forms of entertainment, but kind of in the same realm, it is interesting, and it is a step forward for a lot of people to understand that, hey, there is a type of synergy, and people are finally figuring out what audiences are going to be similar to and going to like. So them taking that step forward and understanding that, hey, people like streaming stuff. These are a bunch of people that watch streamers and streaming. They probably have the setup that they're ready to go to just have everything streamed straight to their TV or their phone or their tablet or whatever it might be, and they will understand that, hey, this is the audience that we're looking for. So with that being said, a lot of companies coming in, there's also a lot of companies either recognizing that they don't know what they're doing and they're hiring people that say they know what they're doing, and end up not knowing what they're doing, especially in the law department or the contract writing department or whatever it might be, that you're either going to see something extremely predatory or you're going to see something extremely naive and amateur. Sometimes it's very, like, weirdly and sadly, because I've been reading a lot of contracts lately, you hardly see things that are like fair to both sides or even close to where you only need a couple red lines. I did work with a company recently where we just had to change a couple things and we were good, and both sides understood. Both sides said, hey, we'll do this. Okay, no, but we'll do this. And then we're like, okay, it sounds good to me. And that was actually very refreshing. But there's been a lot of stuff all over the place that's been a little bit tougher. And there's a lot of people involved that don't, like, you don't expect them to know what to talk about in some of these realms, but they definitely don't know anything about it. So it becomes this whole like telephone game between, well, hey, my people said this and your people are saying this, like, but we're friends, so like let's have this conversation together. And there's all kinds of things going on to where, because I'll tell you right now, this is what the topic was going to be this week. We were going to talk about contracts and stuff, but I wanted to do a little bit more research into what are some things to actually look at and what are some things that we can actually bring on that we can show without getting in trouble. And since we don't have clearance for that yet, I didn't want to make this week's topic about that. We might make it next week, but more than likely it'll be like 2 weeks from now to sort of get a lot of the ducks in a row and make sure that those are all put in. But to the point of time getting started, this is going to keep happening until there is some sort of regulation. So no, you did not pick a bad time to get started. I don't think there is a bad time to get started. I think you start as quickly as you can and as soon as you are able to. Not saying like, hey, you should just start fast and just like go straight in right away, because if you don't start now, you're going to get in trouble. No, I mean, start when you feel comfortable and you don't let it sit there for too long. Start streaming. It's not hard to just start your first one. It's definitely difficult to master the craft. It's definitely difficult to get better and get the tech right and get all that stuff right. But taking it one step at a time and just hitting that starting live button is the best thing you can do when you know that that's what you want to do. If some you don't know what you want to do and you just want to try out, I mean, there's no harm in just going live for a day or two a week, or even like once a month or twice a month. There's no harm in that. You're not going to ruin yourself. You're not going to kill a brand. You're not going to do anything wrong. You're only going to really learn something. In fact, there's a couple of people that I know watch me and have had and have reported to me several times. They're like, I just streamed just based on a hobby and because I wanted to have some fun with it and just kind of see what it was all about. And as soon as I finished, I was like, man, I have way more respect for all these streamers that do it every day and stuff like that. And then you have to explain to them, it's like, yeah, it's definitely hard work, but at the same time, you have a day job and you do other things and you just did this on the side. So combating all the other fatigue that you probably already have, this is another thing on top of that. So while you did recognize it as difficult, you probably have it a little bit tougher than a lot of other streamers who just do this and just do that only. So it's nothing is black and white, as we talk about a lot on this show. Nothing is straight up a good or bad thing. Well, some things are, but those things tend to be obvious. But it's worth discussing, and it's worth discussion, either with people that you know. If you discuss these things in like our Discord, like discord.gg/streamer square, and go in there and you discuss stuff in there, that you're going to get a lot of feedback that's going to give you a lot of stuff that makes you think about it from the people who also do the same things. But you also want to discuss this with your community, whether that's like 4 or 5 people. It's just people that watch you either regularly or semi-regularly, or maybe it's somebody that just came in for the first time and you just ask, hey, what's your impression of the show so far? And if they give you something, use that, whether it's toxic or whether it's super polite. And because like, honestly, both are the same amount of helpful. The really toxic and the really super polite. Whether it's one of those, you take it and you run with it, you do whatever you got. What you're looking for, what I look for, at least in feedback, is the middle ground. It's like, I want to be polite to you and stuff like that, but there's a couple things that I noticed I would like to see different, or whatever it might be. Because I mean, as we all know, the people that they are so polite and so nice and love you so much, and they're just like, hey man, we just love seeing you, man. You're doing great, awesome job, man. Yeah, you're doing awesome. You did the best in the world. My favorite streamer in the world. It's like, that's awesome. That is a very good pat on the back and a good feeling to have, but it doesn't help you necessarily get better. And some like often enough, I need to just hear somebody just tell me everything like that. Oh man, you're the greatest in the world, best, best, whatever. Because sometimes I'm not feeling like myself. I'm not feeling like how we wanted to start back when, 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago now, when I first got on to Twitch, and I was like, well, this isn't going to work like YouTube. I already know this. So I'm not going to be able to run this like YouTube. I'm not going to be able to just be on the whole time while I'm recording a video. So I'm going to have to figure out a good way to be able to have a sustainable personality that is fun and entertaining, but also has a little bit of a structure to the show a little bit. I've always tried to put a structure to the show when it comes to like, hey, we're going to play this game today, and then maybe later we'll play a second game. But I started to loosen up on like what exactly we're going to do, because I feel like Twitch is a little bit more like jazz. But as I get older, I'm like, well, it's a little bit more like jazz, but like structured jazz, because there's like, you gotta have some at least a scale here and there where you're like, okay, we're gonna do this today because everybody loves when we do this. This is a thing that everybody's used to doing. We got to do that even if we're not totally like just doing some improvisation around what it is that our schedule is going to be, or whatever it might be. So there is a little bit of structure to it still. So I've gone back and forth of like, hey, this is what's going on, but also we do have to hit these points at some point, whether it's taking a sponsor, whether it is making sure that we get this game in that we've been playing for a while. Because like we've talked about consistency a lot, and there's a big consistency when it comes to personality, but I think there's an even bigger consistency sometimes when it comes to just keeping a community together and being, hey, not confusing the community and saying, oh, we're just going to play a different game every day. Because sometimes people want that, and sometimes, but those are the people that have kind of learned to like you already. But sometimes there's a lot of people that come in and like, hey man, I really love the No Man's Sky community. You've been playing No Man's Sky for a few days. I think I'm going to actually like invest in you. And then all of a sudden the next day you're like, oh, I'm not playing No Man's Sky anymore. And then, they tend to they feel not like they don't like you anymore, because they may still like you, but they feel like if you're going to keep like waffling like that or flip-flopping, they may feel a little bit uncomfortable. So that's another conversation when it comes to picking game choice and stuff like that. I did think about making that our topic today as well, but as you can tell, I don't pick the topic. I don't settle on the topic, I should say, until like right before the stream, at least like maybe a day or two before the stream. It tends to take me a little bit because I am, one, indecisive, This is why we need salty sparks in my back pocket at all times. But two, I don't know what is repetitive and what we keep talking about and how we can change and make something fresh again, because on one hand, I think that here, one second. On one hand, I think that topics need to be repeated, even if it's the same exact show. It needs to be repeated almost word for word, because not everybody sees that thing, and there's different popularities, and because things like Twitch and YouTube and how this goes is very momentum based. So if a bunch of people just flooded into a channel one time, there's a good chance that they haven't seen much of anything before, and they didn't really go back because they didn't really have time to just binge everything again, right? This, like, Twitch isn't like Netflix in a lot of ways, and we just talked about streaming platforms and stuff like that, because we know that they're not the same. HBO Max and Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff, and Disney Plus, it's not like those often. YouTube is a little bit like that, but Twitch is not. These people stream every single day. I have to watch the live stream because that's way more important than watching recorded videos from the past. And I only have time to do one thing, really. So I'm going to watch the live video, which means a lot of stuff in the past gets kind of lost. And sometimes that means, especially something like this, you got to repeat a topic here and there. You got to make sure that, like, what's going on is different. But you also have to, and what I struggle with is I want to repeat that topic, but I also don't want the people that watch this regularly to be like, oh, he already talked about this. So I try to, like, say, hey, let's figure out a new way to talk about this, or let's find new points to add on top of what we talked about last time. Let's see, do this real quick. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit more about taking some time to yourself, taking some time away. I actually worded it that way on purpose. Because you don't need to take a day and just stay away from your computer. Although some people do. Some people do need to do it that way. Sometimes I feel like I should do that more often that way. But sometimes you just want to sit back and maybe play a game that you don't normally stream. I think this is healthy for game choice too, is part of why I thought about it before, and kind of what led me into this discussion today. Sometimes you want to play a game that does not perform very well on your channel. Maybe because it's extremely popular. Maybe it's because so it's saturated. What I mean by that, maybe it's something that is extremely hard to understand by just watching it. Maybe it's something that is something people just don't like. You know, it's not a very popular game, but you like it. It's important to keep some of those games to yourself and cherish them outside of your stream, because it's very easy to get to a point where you're like, I don't like games anymore. I mean, any longtime streamers will probably tell you that, like, man, I don't want to play anything today. I don't want to play a single video game. I don't want to pick up a mouse and keyboard and put my fingers on W, A, S, or D. I don't want to point and click and kill some bad guys. I don't want to I don't want to do a puzzle. I don't want to do any of that. But I still got to stream. I still got to do my job. So then people go to just chatting and watching videos and stuff like that. I'm very happy to see that evolution of content going on recently in the past, like, probably 6-7 months. We've seen it a little bit before. John Sandman did a lot of those reaction videos way back in the day. But there's still a lot of, like, yeah, that never happens. No, I love video games all the time, every day, no matter what. I play video games even when I'm not streaming. It's like, well, I do play video games even when I'm not streaming, but sometimes they're, well, actually 100% of the time they are 80% of the time, I'll say, they are different games than I'd ever stream. But that's exactly my point. It's like, sometimes you guys just got to keep games to yourself, and instead of, like, going on stream and saying, hey, we're gonna play a game that's totally different, you guys had never seen before, you guys never care, because you don't want it to snowball into, oh man, nobody showed up to my stream. Like, I get it. It was a game that nobody likes. I was playing League of Legends. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody cares about that. Nobody's watching that. That's not a thing that makes sense anywhere, right? That's not like, as many people will recommend, don't play Fortnite, don't play League of Legends, don't do these things if you want to grow on Twitch. And it's like, well, okay, but I want to play these games. These are some of my favorite games. Sometimes take some time to just play it on your own, you know? Take some time to have some fun and just enjoy yourself. If you really want to stream it, by all means, please do it. It's your show. You get to do whatever you want. But I think you should always protect yourself and protect your emotion and sanity when it comes to, man, my stream is not picking up, but the only game I want to play is a game I shouldn't be playing. So what do I do? Because I've been there. I've legitimately been there. The amount of hours I have streamed of Factorio on stream is ridiculous. And half the people that I would say, actually 7/8 of my followership doesn't know what the heck's going on in that game, nor do they care. Nor do they care to learn. And that's not their fault. That's just what they like and don't like. So I was going through a lot of, hey man, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to feel like my stream is just going down the toilet. I don't want to feel like there is just so many things that I'm just letting slip away from me, because it's so easy to feel that way. We're gonna get to a tweet here in a second that I think is extremely powerful. Or at least it was thought provoking, where it's like, I don't want things to just slip away because I have a different interest right now. Because sometimes you gotta satisfy that interest, and sometimes the only time you have to game is on stream. But I think that's why it's important to say, hey man, I don't want to play anything today. Well, I want to play this one game. I don't want to play anything else. Or sometimes you don't want to play anything at all. I don't feel like doing this on stream is a good idea. It's not a good business choice. It's not a good way to grow. But it's the only thing I want to do. Sometimes you got to say to yourself, I'm just not going to stream today. And that's 100% okay. I learned this from Simcopter years ago. If every now and then you get a day that you're supposed to stream and you just feel like, man, it just doesn't feel right. I know it's on my schedule. I know I'm supposed to do this, but sometimes it just doesn't feel right. It's not going to work out for you that day. Just let your community know. It's why it's important to use Discord as much as you can. If people follow you on Twitter, use Twitter as much as you possibly can. Put it in your title when people come to watch your stream. Like maybe they go to your channel and say like, oh, maybe Danatage is on right now, and go to the stream and just put it in your title. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for understanding. That's it. Just let them know. You know, just let them know. Hey, man, I'm just gonna play this game. Or better yet, if you just want to hang out with your community without streaming, because it is 10 times less stressful, I promise you, because you're actually curating who you're hanging out with that day. You don't get to do that on Twitch, by the way. You don't get to curate who's going to be there all the time. So if you want to curate, like, hey, there's 10 people want to play. We're going to let's play some crazy Rocket League or whatever it is. Let's go jump into Rocket League and just get into Discord, and maybe you can even stream your screen and people can watch what you're doing. Just be like, hey, this is cool. I'm just going to play some Rocket League with my friends. My friends being like my community, the people that hang out with me and whatnot. Just get in there and have that you're still letting people know that you exist, which is, as much as that sounds grim and stuff like that, that often is what goes through people's mind. It's like, man, I don't know if people think I exist anymore because I hadn't streamed in like 2 days. Yeah, it's strange, but it is a thought process. But you sit there and you say, well, I'm gonna let people know I still exist. I'm play some video games. It's not a video game that I should stream. We're just gonna hang out on Discord and have some fun with it. I guarantee, one, it's a good social exercise for you and your community. You might get closer with like 4 other people that you maybe weren't close with before, or maybe you were already close with. Maybe you just played with your mods that day and you had a further bonding experience with your moderators. That is powerful. That is super powerful to be able to say, hey, what's going on with you? Because I mean, let's be honest here. When you're streaming, sometimes somebody's not going to say in a public chat like how they're feeling, what's going on. Sometimes you just want a close, intimate like chat session with your moderators, and just like, hey, how you doing, man? You've been hearing about all my problems on stream and stuff like that. How have you been? And then you get a little bit closer that way, possibly. I'm not saying these are things that you have to do in this way. I'm just saying that there are so many benefits to taking time away from being on stream or being on camera or whatever it might be. And some people, I've done this a long time too, will just say, hey, I'm going to take time off of camera, meaning I'm not going to stream my camera on stream. And you could do that, and people will probably not notice for the most part. But there's a lot of people that will see it as a different thing. And most people won't be able to understand it. It's like, man, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the camera being gone. I don't know, but it just feels different. And then they get this, and then sometimes they get this memory of like, oh man, last time I was in that stream, I just didn't feel right. And then they start to think, well, maybe the next time is not going to feel right. Maybe I'm losing love with this stream. It gets, you want to minimize. It gets crazy, but that you want to minimize that as much as possible. So that's where the consistency of brand comes in, stuff like that, and consistency of like what it is that you give your fans. And if your fans just like doing whatever, I mean, that's great. That's awesome. That is probably the most successful way to do a stream, is just that you can do whatever the heck you wanted to do that day and everybody would still show up. But obviously, if you're watching this stream, if you're looking into Streamer Square and you're reading up on stuff like that, you're probably still growing, and that's a little bit different. So you're probably not going to get there right away. So these are some of these things for a lot of new players in the scene and stuff like that, to think about. Hey, if I'm trying to grow a community and that happens to be very focused, I don't want to flip-flop all the time, and I don't want to confuse an audience. So maybe sometimes you just got to take away and play some games with some other people and off stream and stuff like that. And sometimes you just got to do nothing, you know? There's often a day, I shouldn't say that often because it's not true, but sometimes I take a day to just do nothing. And I feel guilty a lot of the time. It's like, man, I could be making videos. I could be on Twitter keeping up with my friends. I could be talking in Discord about what games people are excited for. I could be doing all kinds of things. But sometimes you just gotta do nothing. Sometimes you just gotta watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine for 6 hours. Sometimes you just gotta order takeout because you haven't had takeout in a long time. Sometimes you just gotta do nothing. Sit in your underwear on the couch, just chilling. And I guarantee there's a lot of people that don't do that. Because of the fact that guilt is such a factor. Guilt is such a factor in so many different ways, where you sit there and you say, hey, I could be doing something right now. I could be doing something right now. And since I'm not, I'm doing it wrong. It's important to do your best to not think that way. It's for so many different reasons. Most of the reasons we've already talked about. But it's so interesting when people think that way. And I do it too. And I think about it, I'm like, why do I do this? I don't understand. I'm so much better than this. I shouldn't hurt myself like I do. Let's stop this. And you tell yourself to stop, and sometimes it doesn't actually happen. But you work on it. But that brings me to the tweet I wanted to bring up earlier. Yumi no Kaiju. Let me see. Can I get a link to this? I can just do this, can't I? Yumi no Kaiju tweeted out, as a streamer, do you also feel easily replaced? And I think that is extremely, extremely understandable as a thought. That goes through a lot of people's heads. Because one, there's so many streamers on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook now that it's so easy that you can just feel skipped over. Even by people that have been watching you for such a long time. Just to be like, I don't want to watch that person today. There's so many other choices I have. I can just go do that. Or when talking to sponsors and talking about sponsorships and whatnot, how often do people just sign their contract with having so many problems with the contract? You just sign it and you're like, if I don't sign this, they're going to get somebody else. And you're like, that is such a problematic thought process for so many different reasons. Because one, that's one path to get you into burnout phase. Two, that's often not true. You're not replaceable. There's a reason that people want you. And if people do think you're replaceable, then they're doing their job wrong, probably. Like if they could say, oh, I could just easily get rid of this person and get another person that's just like them. It's like, well, that means they're not recognizing who you are. But that's the thing is I'm sitting here telling you most people don't think that way. Some people do, and sometimes you just don't work with those people, but most people don't think that way. They asked you to do something with them, for them, around them because they liked you. And that is important. That is important to understand. And if they didn't ask you something and you went to them and said, "Hey, I'd like to do something," it's even easier to feel this way because you're like, I went to them, they didn't come to me. The fact that they said yes has, well, there's so many different reasons for the fact that they said yes, but the fact that they said yes means they do like what you did, either when you asked them to work with them or you brought something up that said that piqued their interest, right? And if they're just seeing, low dollar signs like saying, "Hey, I'll do this for $20." Oh man, we can afford $20. That's no problem. If that's why they said yes, well then they're not understanding that $20 is more than zero. But is $20 worth your reputation? This is the point I'm getting to. Is $20 worth your reputation? Because if they say yes to, "Hey, we can afford $20, that's not a problem. Doesn't matter what this person does." It's not true. If that person takes your $20 and says they've been sponsored by you, because that's all it takes, right? It takes $1 basically to say you've been sponsored. If a streamer comes out and says, "Hey, this stream is sponsored by A, B, and C," and they start bad mouthing the company and they start talking terrible trash about it, they start doing all kinds of things that is not what your brand wants, and let's say you didn't have it in the contract where they were allowed to do whatever they want because, well, they negotiated out all of that, or you never wrote it in there, then, well, you just spent $20 to have somebody talk trash about your company. So if that's all they're seeing, well, then they're making the mistake there. But if you offer a low price and they work with you, it's probably because they still like you. So I don't think that anybody should feel like they're replaceable. And the moment that they do is probably the moment they need to leave that situation, because that's probably a situation that's just going to make you feel worse. It's going to make you feel worse than you already do, especially if you're already thinking that way. Leave the situation, go find something that is going to suit you a little bit better. Because while I do believe there are so many broadcasters on there, on this platform, now I just wanted to get viewer numbers on a game that I was promoting. It's a good chance that I would pick a lot of people based upon what their viewership was. But if I'm smart, which I'd like to think I am sometimes, there's a lot of people I just absolutely would not work with, because I know that either they don't, their numbers, their 1,000 so viewers don't care about my game. So why would I pay for these 1,000+ viewers, because it's probably going to cost me a lot, when I have a good feeling that, one, they're not going to promote my product the way I want them to, and two, them and their community just don't care about this genre even, or theme, or whatever it might be. So why would I do that to my company? Why would I do that? I'm going to people that, whether I like them or not, I respect what they do, and I have a piece of, I'm going to actually get a good product for what I'm paying for. So that's important. And that led me to Sam, who responded to her, who is part of Twitch staff. He talks about the fact that I'll repeat what he said. I have a pretty expansive theory on this, and it changes over time. People will always fear the feeling of replacement, but in reality, life is constantly changing for everyone. Every day, someone has to choose to watch you, and when you change, you'll win some and lose some. That is, in my opinion, that's outside the question, but it is still part of the question. It's like an outlying, hey, I know that there's a lot of people that left because we switched games or whatever it might be, or we changed it up a little bit, and they may not like that. So I feel like they're just replacing me with something else. So to Sam's point, it can very easily be mistaken for I'm being replaced because I changed a little bit of something and they just wanted something to replace it. It's like maybe they just didn't like that change. It wasn't for them. That's not on you. If that change is what you think is better for your content or that change is better for whatever it might be, you have to accept that yeah, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And some people are going to come in because of it. Some people are going to go away because of it. Some people are going to stay because of it because they really like that change. And some people are going to come in and be like, I'm following this person. I like this person when they may have not done that before. Because it's so easy to just see, it's so easy to not to recognize that, hey, I'm not getting an influx of followers, right? I'm getting a few followers, but not a giant influx of followers. Rather than seeing these people that are following me now are following because they like what they see. They don't have to know what it changed from. They don't. They often don't care what it changed from. They care about what's in front of them now. And if you make something that you think is good in front of and you put that in front of them and they follow you for that, that means you won something. You did it right. Don't worry about the, oh man, I just spent a bunch of money to change all my logos and all my visual images and stuff like this, and I don't just see a bunch of people flocking to that new stuff. I actually see people leaving. It's not, you didn't do anything wrong. If you liked it, that's what you want your brand to be. There's a good chance you didn't do anything wrong. You just did what you thought was right. You just did what you thought was good and fun. So you can't put that whole replacement value into stuff like that. There's so, again, because everything's so gray and nothing is black and white, there's so many factors that go into it. Try not to think about it too hard because there's a good chance you're not going to be right about it. If you think about it so deeply that you try to make up so many different hypotheses and theories that you just come up and you're like, I probably am wrong about most of this. So think about what it is that's in front of you and what you can see and what you can show and work with that. But the big thing is, and the reason that I responded to it and wanted to respond to these tweets was because I think that that feeling can burn people out. And I think that that feeling also lays into the path of, because people feel this way, it means they have to stream every single day or they have to do something constantly so that people don't forget about them and people don't replace their content with somebody else's content in front of them. Because I'll tell you right now that there's so many people that only watch a streamer once a week, twice a week even. So you taking an extra day off probably won't affect them. And this is like the majority of people that watch Twitch and what have you. I would say, at least. To the point at which, if you think that taking 2 days off a week, you know, like normal weekend as you had maybe at your day job, is terrible because most people stream 6 to 7. If it's better for your health, if it's better for your sanity, if it's better for you not feeling burnt out, there can't be anything wrong with it. There just can't be. Because in a lot of ways, and people will tell you differently sometimes, and sometimes they're right. In a lot of ways, Twitch isn't, and content creation by yourself and stuff like this, and even entertainment in general is not a sprint at all. It's not a sprint. You don't need to just pump out a ton of billboards and advertisements and commercials and stuff like this, because we've seen that work, right? We see Call of Duty ads for everything the week or two before the new Call of Duty comes out. We see that and we're like, oh, that must be the way they do it. It's like, no, they just have a ton of money and they have a ton of money that they're told they have to spend on it, and they spend that. And that's just, and then they sell, you know, millions of copies every year. They're the top selling game in North America every single year. But they also worked, people also forget that they've been releasing games every year for the last, I don't know, what, 10 years now? It's been a long time. There's been a Call of Duty game like every year. That's part of the marathon piece too. People know they can expect a Call of Duty game. They also know what they can expect from said Call of Duty game because most Call of Duty games are very similar. That take that lesson away. before you think that it's a giant sprint. I would say take the lesson of people know exactly what they're going to get with a little bit of variety, and they know when they're going to get it. They're going to get it around the holiday season every single year. And it's going to be a shooter. You can pump up and jump down and dolphin dive and shoot grenades and jump off the walls and all this stuff. It's like, that's Call of Duty. That's what you're going to get. Be Call of Duty to a lot of people if you want to. But also try to be better in Call of Duty by sometimes adding a little bit more variety than they actually put in there. But that's up to you. You get to play with that. That's part of your jazz. The point is, consistency is the key there. If you're going to stream several days a week, stream several days a week. People know it's like, hey, this person's on Friday through Sunday. They're on at 8 a.m. every Friday through Sunday. It doesn't matter that you're not streaming all week long, but if they know that you're streaming Friday through Sunday at 8 a.m., they're more than likely going to be there. Or there's a lot, I would say this is probably the bigger case, is I get on Twitch at this time. It's probably about right about when I either start work or get off work, depending on the person. And they say, hey, who's online? Oh, hey, I like every time I'm in that person's stream because I feel A, B, and C. I'm going to go in there because I know what I'm going to feel like. And I like what that feeling is. That to me is more important than the schedule, by the way. But that is exactly what it's going to be like because there's going to be giant windows. Stop thinking of things as set points and think of them as windows. And no, it's not because they came and washed all our windows today. I'm not thinking windows. It's only a joke Katie would get and she didn't even laugh. But think of things as windows of time and windows of feeling and windows of experience. Because if you hit something on the point every single time, people aren't going to be there on that point every single time. Not everybody that watches you throughout an entire stream, do they all show up at the same time every single day? The same exact time on the dot every single day? More than likely not. Even if they're at every single stream, do they show up at the same time? Probably not. When they show up is when they can. And since you don't get to control what's happening in their life, things can happen. Just hit that window. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And then when you got to take some time away and just say, hey, I don't feel like this is going to happen today. Just call it the day right there. Take care of yourself. Be nice to yourself. Don't let anything take over your life you don't want to take over your life. Put it that way. Don't do that. You need to take care of yourself always. And every time somebody sits around and starts being mean to themselves or saying, I'm not doing this right, that's human, right? That's not like, I'm not telling you that you're doing it wrong by asking yourself and questioning yourself these things. But understand that use those thoughts, that I think you should use those thoughts to get better at things, to make adjustments so that those become healthier thoughts. Now, this is a lot of my inner thoughts speaking outside of that, and I'm projecting probably quite a bit, but it's important to, and I've gotten better at it. This is why I think I'm able to talk about it. If I say, hey man, I'm not doing well this month. My viewership is in the garbage. My subscribers are in the garbage. It's just not there. That is never going to stop me 1 or 2 months at a time, maybe even 3, 4. What's going to stop me is if I no longer want to make that better and no longer want to change and work something out to get better at it and to make that something that is going to work. Right? Oh man. Okay. I think we're going to get out of here. This was a good talk. It was very therapeutic for me. I hope it was therapeutic for you. If you have any questions, please ask them. Ask them now. I know that we have a pretty quiet day today, but we're hanging out. I hope you guys take something away from this. I know people talk about this all the time. There's a lot of talk. There's definitely talk on the stream scene quite often of, hey, take some days off. But most people that just listen to that advice usually see negatives out of it. And I'm here to tell you that try not to focus on those negatives because there's a lot of positives you're probably missing. So we're gonna get out of here. Stay with that thought. I don't have any homework for you this week. I think we had homework last week, but we'll probably pick that up again next week because this is a completely different topic and different type of topic. But no homework this week. So relax, go home. You're probably at home. I hope you're at home because of, everybody should be quarantining themselves. Wear a mask. Go home, go to your couch, and just relax. Play a game on your Switch, on your couch. Do something. Do something that is not stressing yourself out about anything. Just take care of yourself. Because every time you take care of yourself, every moment you spend taking care of yourself, you will spend another moment being less stressed out about the thing that probably normally stresses you out. Okay? So take that. Come back to me and tell me how you felt. So maybe you do have homework. Take that. Tell me how you felt. Hopefully it helps. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Okay? See you, Big Jim. Later, buddy. Bye. I love you guys.